we have a campaign ad from the Trump team on his website that has like the new Reich in it, that they say it's the new fucking Reich. It's like, yeah, it makes sense that a lot of people are going to look at that and say, oh yeah, you know, this kind of harkens back to the fucking Nazis. Yeah, I think so. I think that's the first thing everybody's going to think of. I think when Donald Trump comes out and kind of points at some immigrants and says, yes, they're poisoning the blood of our nation. Yeah, I think everybody's going to look at that and say, oh, you know, that sounds like something fucking Hitler said. Yeah, it sounds a little something like that guy said. They're able to kind of make the connections themselves, regardless of whether or not the media says it. But it makes sense when they say it. At least it's a rational thought process when the media says, you know, hey, this is kind of analogous to something that the Nazis did. But there's nothing that she's done that can be compared to Marx's communism or Maoism. All right, let's get into it.
Madam Vice President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you.
What does that even mean? What does that mean, released into the country? Like they're catching them and being like, oh, I mean, you're an illegal immigrant, but whatever, go ahead. Like, what does that mean? Just they're catching them and then just saying, you can stay anyways, you're good, whatever. Yes, that's fucking retarded. That's insane. Asylum's not illegal. This guy's not dumb enough to call legal immigration illegal. Okay, he's not gonna do that. Nobody else does that except for f***ards on the internet. All right, like that. Nobody else thinks if you do things that aren't against the law that we're gonna call it illegal. No, everybody knows that illegal means against the law. Everybody knows that except for you guys.
I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have, and you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you
now,
just a number? Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
it's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of
system
6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to.
Yeah, well, yeah, she doesn't sound like she's answering it at all, but you would at least allow her to get through what it is she's saying first and allow her to not answer the question before you start interrupting her. It could be that like she has a whole speech to get to the numbers, but yeah, he didn't even give her the attempt to get to the numbers or what it is she thinks the numbers are.
Answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So looking back, do you regret the...
Not really a large number. I mean, like the number in and of itself it doesn't mean much. It's about the proportionality in and of itself, but there wasn't like really a large proportionality nor a large number for either one of those things.
The decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the CHIPS and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, she hasn't actually even gotten an attempt to answer the question yet. This is kind of wild for you guys to come in here comparing this, if this is how it goes, I mean, you can say that he was rushed because she was late, but there's no way that we can compare this to the Trump interview where he would literally let him go on for like 5 minutes and then ask him the question a second time, and then on the second or third time around, then be like, "Sir, you still have not answered the question. Let me ask again," and then he would start interrupting him. But this is like, yes, like just a couple words into each sentence, he starts interrupting her. This is kind of ridiculous, but it is obvious once he pushes her like that, she should just give like a direct answer at that point, and then give her spiel afterwards.
May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they didn't bring up that bill.
I'm in the middle of responding to the point you're raising, and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
6 Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill.
6 Democrats. Oh my God.
And told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you,
but actually is focused on fixing it.
6 Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungary, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There is no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because
yeah, the like Laken Riley's family has literally asked Republicans to stop bringing up this this killing as a political point for them. They've said over and over they don't want to be used as political pawns. They don't want their child's death to be used as a political pawn. They've said this over and over. They're like, this has caused them a lot of problems and they don't want this happening anymore. But yeah, Republicans don't give a fuck about Laken Riley. They don't give a fuck about the family. They just want to sound like they do, so they keep bringing it up anyways. They want to sound like they care so much, but they're just going to keep bringing it up over and over and over and over, while the actual family's like, bro, please stop bringing it up. Like, please stop. Just stop mentioning us, please.
There was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers.
You're being hyperbolic. This is dumb. Yeah, this is you guys like using anecdotes to kind of prove a point. It doesn't actually prove a point. It's a fucking anecdote. Like, it doesn't prove anything. It's like good for, like, you know, people who are who make their decisions on emotion. And so when you see something that's like that's bad, like somebody dying, yes, you have an emotional reaction to it. That's true. But most adults are smart enough to not make their decisions and not be affected by anecdotes and make emotional decisions like that. Most of us can look at it and say, well, that's one thing. That you pulling up 3 people doesn't actually make a point. If you had the point, you would have brought up statistics, but you don't have statistics that actually make the point. So you have to pull up anecdotes instead.
Talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
This is ridiculous. Like, this is insane. This is actually, I if I were her, I would turn it on him and say, it's really disgusting that you guys were going to use the deaths of these people and stand on their graves, do the same thing that that Ben Shapiro did, and that all of the Republicans do when people bring up anecdotes of school shootings. It is like, it's not a good look when you bring up anecdotes of school shootings and then start pointing at specific kids and their families that died to try to pass some broad legislation on gun policies. That's not a good thing. It's ridiculous. And so when Republicans say, dude, this is disgusting that you are standing on all the graves of these children who died at these schools, just to try to get some political points off of it and point at us and say that we're the ones to blame, that's disgusting. I would do the same exact thing to them and say, yo, this is disgusting. You guys are doing exactly what you guys cry about Democrats doing. But I don't know that she can, because she's probably done it herself. But yes, this is a disgusting thing that I can't stand about fucking politics.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I am so sorry for her loss, sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in
her?
all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration, even before. Let's.
Yeah, during Trump's administration, he literally claimed the border a crisis and said it was a state of emergency, and had to transfer funds out of the emergency funds into over to ICE in order to maintain the border. Like, the amount of people that have been coming to the border has been a problem for a long time. But the reason that so many people are coming over now is because of what happened with COVID. And we've been over that 1,000 times, is like all of the people stacking up while the border is closed during the pandemic. That was the issue. And then all of a sudden, you know, Kamala Harris and Biden take over. They get rid of a lot of the bills that were specifically for COVID, and now the Trump administration uses this as some sort of dunk against them when they were getting rid of COVID bills, dude. They were getting rid of stuff that Trump put in place for fucking COVID. Like, COVID was over. Yeah, you get rid of that shit. You guys are all complaining about all the new shit over COVID while they're getting rid of it, and you're still complaining that they get rid of it.
Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist, they will tell you.
it was everything Trump did to mitigate illegal immigration. That's not true. That's just not true. The only other thing that like really made a big difference with what it is that Biden and Kamala, or what Biden got rid of during his administration, was the Remain in Mexico bill, which almost 100% was going to be overturned by the Supreme Court because it was against like not only Constitution, but it was.
My super chat is censored.
True. What up, Gay Odyssey? How's it going, homie? Nice to see you back. Yeah, we added a new thing. It says it right here at the top if you're watching the main stream. I need to put the banner on the other stream, but we've mentioned this a couple of times. If you guys want to donate, you can change the colors behind me of the lights. There's 3 different lights. There's one on that side, there's one on that side, and then there's the one that's moving as well. There's different colors for that. So yes, if you donate at least $5 per light, you can choose the colors for the lights and and just put in your message what color you want the lights to be, and we'll change it to those colors. But yeah, the Remain in Mexico, that's what I'm saying. EOD, that I literally just said, the only thing that wasn't like applying to COVID was the Remain in Mexico bill, and that was almost 100% just going to get overturned anyways. Like it was against all sorts of issues. And then even now, like Biden has a rule that says that you can't claim asylum if you entered into the country illegally, and that's almost definitely going to get overturned as well. Like there's a bunch of things that we just can't do. Like we're just not allowed to do this shit. And this is something that Biden put in place, and it's almost definitely going to get overturned because we can't do a lot of this shit.
We need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett. Well, that's how this system works.
That's the premise of this question. There were 90-plus executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump. And
yeah, you guys said that she went off on long rambling like sentences like Trump did, but that's not true. This is nothing compared to Trump's interview where he comes nowhere close to answering the question. You guys said that this is the same thing. This is not the same thing. This is nowhere close to the same thing, where Trump is not anywhere even close to the same topic. He's there to answer questions about the economy and starts talking about like immigration, starts talking about all sorts of random stuff that has nothing to do with the question.
I have to bore anybody by talking about it, but I put tariffs on South Korea.
Like he's just,
look at what you're going to do in terms of protectionism.
Just
drive countries to use the other.
He would go off for like 5 minutes at a time on a random story that wasn't even related to economics. Like over and over.
And all that. Next moment, the markets are looking at the fact you are making all these.
Wrong about
no, you're trying to turn.
Here he is, like all cross-armed. Like a pouty little kid. Like this was ridiculous, dude. You guys trying to compare this, which yes, I agree. She's not answering the questions. She's not good in interviews, but neither is Trump. Like Trump is not good in interviews whatsoever. And so yes, like I'm always annoyed in listening to her interviews because as somebody who's like interested in these questions, I want to know what the answers are. I want to hear what she has to say. I want to hear a substantive answer, and I want to hear something that actually is like going to be directed at the problem that they're trying to raise, but that they're trying to raise. But this is just not the same thing at all.
Trying to turn this into debate. There are business people.
A failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said at 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law. And that is exactly what we will do.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel to people who have trafficked.
Yeah, like, I know that she brings this up a lot, but it really is, like, a good point. Like, she's obviously not this, like, person who's super pro-immigration when she is somebody who has actually charged these people and put them in jails. This is always like a back and forth with Kamala, where they'll bring up points to say, she was so unfair with these people. She didn't give them fair trials. She just wanted to put people in jail. She was way too hard on everybody. And then they'll turn right around and like, oh, she loves letting criminals out. She wanted all the criminals out roaming the streets. She doesn't care about crime at all. She always loves criminals just being out on the streets. It's like, which one is it, dude? Is it that she was always trying to keep everybody locked up and she wanted to keep them in prison, or is it that she wanted all of the criminals out roaming around? Like, pick one already. Which one is it?
In guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
Like, she's literally somebody who's put enemies of the state in jail and in prison and gotten them locked up, while we have somebody like Donald Trump who's sending enemies of the state fucking COVID tests. Like, he's sending COVID tests out to Putin, or he's out making friends with Kim Jong-un, or he's, out like, helping out the other world leaders that we want to suffer. We want to have problems for causing us all of these problems. But yes, he's out doing the exact opposite of what it is that she's doing. It's kind of ridiculous to kind of like press her on this stuff and treat her like the pro-criminal person when you literally have Donald Trump facing over 80 charges of fucking felonies right now. Like, there is no comparison here. There's no way that you can convince anybody who has half a brain that this actually makes sense. Yes, as you guys all start spamming like, oh, TDS, we're literally talking about somebody convicting criminals versus somebody who is a fucking criminal. Like, it is insane to think, oh, all the people who are voting for a fucking felon and are hoping he gets off on all of his charges and are rooting for him to get immunity are the people who really care about criminals. They're the ones who really care about the law. Yeah.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
I mean, to actually support surgeries for prisoners is insane. Like, that's actually fucking insane. Like, if I was a trans person who wasn't capable of getting the surgeries, I would just go commit a fucking felony so I could go to prison and get the surgery. That would probably be a lot better. It is kind of like an insane thing, and I don't know what the thought process was behind it. I've never actually looked into this one. But yeah, this is, unless it's like just like some sort of like gender affirming care that they would, like, if they already have it, they would just continue that while they're in prison. That's one thing. But if they're actually like giving them full surgeries and crap, that would be insane. Okay, here we go. Does Kamala Harris support government paid gender affirming surgery for prison inmates and immigrant detainees. A, the government must provide Medicare. I was about to say I'm almost pretty sure that the government does provide these things almost across the board to trans people. I think almost across the board they already pay for these things anyway. So I could be totally wrong on this. But yes, if it's something that they can't get from the outside from the government, but they can only get it inside, that would be wild. The government must provide medical care to prisoners and immigrant detainees. Vice President Kamala Harris expressed support in a 2019 questionnaire for medically necessary gender-affirming care, including surgical care for federal prisoners and detainees. She has not detailed her position in the current campaign. We've recently received a number of readers' questions. Let's see. The U.S. Constitution requires the government to provide needed medical care for prisoners. There is also government policy supporting necessary gender-affirming care for immigrant detainees, including hormone therapy, although we were unable to find any policy specifically recommending gender-affirming surgery. Yes, yeah, that's the thing, is that, like, yes, if we're talking about surgeries, that's actually just, like, kind of above and beyond. If we're talking about somebody who goes to prison and they're already in the middle of some sort of, like, transition and they need HRT to continue that transition, and they're going to have some sort of catastrophic issue, like medical issues, if they stop taking the HRT that they're already on, that would, yeah, obviously the government has to continue giving them that, and there could be states that currently aren't equipped for that, and so policies that would do something like that makes sense. But yeah, if they're giving them, like, you know, tits while they're in prison, like, I don't know, that seems a little ridiculous.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, you know, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy, and no gender transition surgeries
you know what, you got to take responsible for what happened
presidency.
in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still?
Let's see. She says it's public knowledge now. Trump admin prison surgery. Under Trump, U.S. prisons offered gender-affirming care.
Advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment surgeries.
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think it's real. He spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear.
Yeah, I mean, according to the headline, I don't want to take anything from a headline, but according to the headline, it says, under Trump, prisoners received gender-affirming care. ABC News, a look at Trump's transgender operations on illegal aliens debate claim. Well, that's Harris. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the actual claim is here, but oh, here we go. The Telegraph. Trump administration signed off on sex change surgeries for transgender prisoners. Officials in the Justice Department gave the green light to procedures in 2018 while Trump was in the White House. The Trump administration signed off on sex change surgeries for transgender prisoners, according to reports. Officials in the Justice Department gave the green light to procedures that also included hormone therapy and hair removal in 2018 while Donald Trump was in the White House, the New York Times reports. The Republican presidential candidate has repeatedly attacked Kamala Harris for having previously supported sex changes for transgender inmates. Prison Bureau officials wrote in a budget memo to Congress in February 2018 that the government was obligated to pay for sex change procedures if deemed medically necessary. Transgender offenders may require individual counseling and emotional support, they said. Medical care may include pharmaceutical interventions, e.g. cross-gender hormone therapy, hair removal, and surgery, if individualized assessment indicates surgical intervention is applicable. However, a long-running legal battle delayed the first such operation until 2022 after Trump had left office. Ms. Harris accused Trump of hypocrisy when questioned on her former support for the policy in a Fox News interview on Wednesday evening. I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed, she said. Under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medically necessary basis to people in the federal prison system. She said a Trump campaign advert attacking her for supporting the procedures was throwing stones when you're living in a glass house, adding, "You've got to take responsibility for what happened in your administration." The Trump campaign hit back following the interview, accusing the vice president of lying and noting that the first sex change surgery of a federal inmate occurred in 2022 under Miss Harris. Why do they keep saying this? Under Miss Harris. Who the fuck walks around saying under Mike Pence? Who says this? Who walks around saying under Mike Pence's administration? Under the Pence administration. You know, Mike Pence didn't do a good job with this.
Mantis tipped $4.20. Here's some money for the subscription.
Thank you, Mantis. I found the answer, but I will use it for the next one. Thank you, thank you. If anybody wants to donate, you can donate using super chats or stickers, or you can use tips. There's a link in the description for tips. That'll be super beneficial. But thank you, Mantis, for the 420. So yeah, it looks like Donald Trump did sign the bill. So where he says, no, she's wrong. The surgeries didn't happen under it didn't happen under our administration. It doesn't matter if the surgeries actually took place under your administration. You signed off on them happening. You're acting like she's insane for allowing something like this to happen or for supporting it happening. Yet you literally signed off on this happening. That is some blatant hypocrisy there. And I would say that just by acting like she's insane for supporting like this, while not adding that you signed off on this happening as well, that is a lie. That is him trying to mislead people as though she's supporting something that he would never allow to happen.
Here in the voters.
He signed off on it? Yes. Yes, it's very clear right here. The Donald Trump administration signed off on sex change surgeries for transgender prisoners, according to report. He may have had like an addendum to it, like it's possible that there was like some fine print or something at the bottom that said like, you know, we'll only allow you to do this as long as you send Donald Trump some videos of you showing off the new tits and the new vagina later. It's possible. I don't know what the incentive was there, but yeah, all we can do is speculate. We don't really know.
Because he actually has no plan in this.
He was not lying, Tom. No sex changes happened under his administration. How is that a lie? That I didn't say that was the lie, did I? That's not what I said was the lie. So it's a little weird that you said that was the lie when that's not what I brought up as the lie. It's a little strange that you just brought something up that I didn't say was a lie and then acted like you were correcting me on whether or not that's a lie. See, that is actually what I just brought up a minute ago as a lie, is where you infer that I said something as though you're correcting me on it when it didn't actually happen. And then I said, that's kind of a lie, right? So where you bring this up and act like I said that was a lie, that's kind of a lie when you do that, you know? That's kind of a lie when you act like I said something that I didn't say. So, yeah.
This election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people, whereas at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
on plans for the American
we'll
people, I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by.
Let's spend 10 minutes arguing about something that happened under Trump instead of talking about Kamala's platform while we review this Kamala interview. EOD, who's the last streamer that you watched review a Trump interview? Who's the last one? Like you were in the chat, you were there chatting. Rob Noor. Okay, when did that happen and what interview was it? And if I go watch that interview, are you not going to be going off about how bad Kamala is the entire time you're watching the interview? Are you not going to be comparing all of his answers? If I go pull it up right now, I can go through his streams and find the one where he went over a Trump interview. Are you not going to be there going off about how ridiculous Kamala is the entire time you're watching a Trump interview, talking about her platform while you're watching his interview? No, I'm going to be singing Trump's praises if we're talking about Trump. Okay, we will double check this. We'll have to fact check this soon enough.
By 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker,
Why do you
would
think more
ignite
people
inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at
Propaganda, pure propaganda. It is pure propaganda. I've been over this 1,000 times. There aren't economists who go over all of the great things that Donald Trump did during his administration. I haven't seen them. I can't find them. They don't exist. There are that no one says that. No. The Americans do say that. He's not wrong. Americans do say that they feel more comfortable under Trump when it comes to the economy, that they feel like he's going to do a better job. But the problem is that yes, nobody knows what he did. Nobody knows what he did to make the economy better. Nobody has any fucking idea. While when Trump went into office, everybody was very clear. We had the best trajectory for the economy in decades. We had the best trajectory for the economy in decades. Where not only did Obama come in and pull us out of the 2008 financial crisis, the fastest that we've ever recovered from a financial crisis of that amount. But on top of that, he built in tons of safeguards to stop it from happening again, and then built tons of ways for people to be able to, create companies and new jobs faster, put more competition into the market faster. Like, he created tons and tons of ways to really bolster our economy. And all Trump had to do was come in and just not touch anything, and he was gonna have a great fucking economy. And the few things that he did, almost all of it, not all of it, there's a couple of things that I've given him a lot of credit for, but there's a few things that he did that almost all things that he did actually ended up as a net negative. Almost every single thing that he did ended up as a net negative and hurting the economy. So
an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting.
Yeah, Rain Wizard in chat said closed borders didn't happen until 2020 when he had to inject cash straight into the market to keep it from crashing. Wait, I'm a little lost from those two. But yes, there were no closed borders until COVID. The closed borders didn't exist until COVID happened. Trump did not have closed borders during his administration. We can go over the amount of immigrants that came over the border legally and illegally during his administration. And we can go over the amount of deportations that Trump had. And you know what? Biden has just as many deportations and returns as Donald Trump. So there's not this, like, everybody has this idea that they just don't care and they're just literally doing nothing. They're literally doing nothing and they're allowing people to come in and they're just sitting back. Meanwhile, Biden has set records on the amount of executive orders that he's written for the border and is deporting as many people. And they tried to get a bill passed because that's about as much as they can do legally. He can't do anymore. All that they can do now is just get more money funneled to the border so that they can get more agents to the border and get more resources over there. They need more judges. They need more ICE agents. They need more people over there to get people processed faster so that they can either tell them, no, you do not qualify for asylum, or they can process them and move them in and give them better legal status.
Interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be? And
the denial rate is significantly lower in the Biden administration. What do you mean significantly? The approval rating is, last I checked, was like 9%. So what is significant to you? If only 9% of the people are actually getting approved for asylum, what is significant to you? I don't know what it was under Trump. It might have been 7%. So it goes from 7% to 9%, maybe. I have no idea. It could be that it went, that the approval rating actually went down under the Biden administration. I have no idea. But what are the numbers that you're aware of when you say that it changed significantly? What are those numbers? Because I'm happy to go look them up.
what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of. But
yeah.
Also,
white men for strong, independent black women. Let's go. I am pumped. I am so pumped to be a disgusting, racist white man supporting real change in this country where we finally get a strong, independent black woman, a woman of color, as our almighty leader. I am so stoked for this. Guys, aren't we all so stoked for this? We are finally able to make amends for the mistakes of our forefathers. I only want fake change. Getting a black woman to run the country is as good as fake change we can get. We at least look woke while we're doing it.
So I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes in to office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector, and others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing, addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years, so what are you turning the page from?
Yeah, why? You're pretty much the president when you're the vice president. You're pretty much in charge already. So, I mean, how could it change at all? I mean, it's not like things changed at all going from Obama to Biden. It was pretty much the same person the whole time, right, guys? It was pretty much the same exact person for both of those presidencies. Same guy. So it's all good. If it turns out that Mike Pence runs for president, all of the Trumpers are gonna support him, right, MAGA? Right, guys? Yeah, you guys are all gonna fully support Mike Pence because he was Donald Trump's vice president, and so you feel like that's pretty much voting for Donald Trump, right? It's the same thing, yeah?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is
tell
about
pollsters,
turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president.
Who was this poll done by? direction of the country. Marquette Law School. Wait, Marquette Law School did this? October 1st through the 10th. And they had 652 likely voters. Did they just go find, like, the one with the worst possible results? Because why would you use 652 likely voters from Marquette Law School for this poll? What is the poll? No, not the direction of the Courtney. I know what direction she's facing. Let's see. Restoring people's confidence in polling is an important goal because robust, blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is just talking about how to get people to trust polling again. No, I don't care about Courtney. Stop telling me about Courtney. Damn it, it still says Courtney. Direction of country. Okay. Real clear polling. Let's see how clear this polling is. This is the real clear polling. This is unironic clear polling, guys. Not the ironic kind. This is the unironic kind. It started off ironic, and then they unironicked it. And the website doesn't work. Okay. Poll majority of voters say the country's heading in the wrong direction. Well, this is done on October 11th, so I'm assuming it's going to quote the same poll. Center Square Voters Voice Poll conducted October 2nd through the 4th found that 60% of voters believe the country is headed in the wrong direction. Let's see. Oh, this one's actually a decent poll. One of 6 national tracking polls in the United States conducted by Noble Predictive Insights asked 2,500 likely and registered voters to assess both presidential candidates and identify which policy issues they are most concerned with. Yeah, I 100% believe that, like, people feel like the country's heading in the wrong direction. But yeah, we're still pulling ourselves out of COVID, and so I don't think that people really know about the amount of differences that have actually happened and the amount of like inflation, the amount inflation has gone down, and the amount of differences that the current administration has made. But truly, it is like a failing of not only Biden, but of Kamala Harris to actually be capable of getting this message out to people. Like, it has been a massive failing for this administration to actually, like, get information out to people and let them know what the differences are. Yeah. I mean, Biden's approval ratings are a little bit better than Trump's were at the end of his presidency. But yeah, even still, this same poll still says that the majority of these people, the same people who think the country's heading in the wrong direction, also believe that Kamala Harris should win the presidency. So it seems like, yeah, if they think the country's heading in the wrong direction, I also think the country's heading in the wrong direction. I also look around and see that there are so many people that are way less intelligent than I thought Americans would be. There's so many people that are, like, way less capable of logical thinking than I thought. There's way less people that actually care about, like, evidence and care about, like, you know, the truth and crap like that. And so, yeah, I look around the country and I'm like, I say this all the time, like, I'm terrified of, like, where this country's heading right now and what it is that Trumpers are doing to it. But yeah, it has nothing to do with the Biden administration. I still feel like this country's heading in the wrong direction.
Wrong track. That track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying. 79.
Yes, I was correct, Rain Wizard. They did go and find the poll that had the worst results, because yes, that poll that we just looked at had 2,500 people polled on there, and it said that it was 60%. Whereas they went and got the poll that came up with the best results to make their point, which is like fucking 80%, dude. So they had to get the one that was giving them the best results. Meanwhile, it's got fucking 600 people who voted on it. It's like, what is that? I'm not very good at math, but I want to say it's like 6 times the amount in the other poll that we read.
The wrong track. That track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
not statistically significant. It could be, but the point is that yes, if a bunch of other polls have different results and larger numbers, then it says that this is the anomaly. So this is like the way that polling works, is you can go through a ton of polls and see what it is that the conclusion that everybody came to on the same poll. And if all of them have like relatively the same percentages, but one or two have different percentages, you throw those away as just anomalies. They just happen to be a little bit off. Or you do an aggregate of all of them together and just make it like one big percentage. But yeah, what it looks like what they did is they just went and got the one that made it look the worst. And Rain Wizard is saying that yeah, literally every other poll says 60 to 64% say we're on the wrong track. They went and got the one that said 80% and showed that one.
What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade, people have become. But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him instead of the American people. People are tired of that.
Yeah, while all of these Trumpers are running around complaining about the fact that the mainstream media called Trump a Nazi, which I still haven't seen any evidence of this. I still haven't seen they said they called him Hitler. That's what they said. They said the mainstream media called him Hitler. I still have not seen any evidence that they've actually ever called him Hitler at any point, that the mainstream media did this. No shot. But while they're complaining about this, obviously it was debunked that ever happened the first attempt on his life. And so then when the second attempt on his life came around, they changed the story over to say that actually it's not even that they called him Hitler, it's that they keep saying he's a danger to society, that he's going to end democracy, that he's a threat to our Constitution, and that's why people are doing this. And it's like, are you guys fucking insane? You realize Donald Trump has literally said all of the same things about Kamala Harris, yet has also called her a fucking Marxist, called her a Maoist, called her an authoritarian, called her a communist, called her a fascist. Like, he's literally done all of the same things and has no reasoning to it, has never actually explained why he comes to any of these conclusions, never given any fucking thought process behind any of this, yet he's just able to say the most radical shit and nobody's shooting at Kamala. It's fucking crazy. Nobody's shooting at Kamala. So it doesn't seem to be the rhetoric. It doesn't seem to be what it is that people are saying about him or her. It seems to be how believable it is. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be that people are just saying it just out of nowhere, just saying, oh, this is the thing. No, it seems to be how believable it is that like even you guys know when you hear people say that she's a fucking Marxist, that you know that's not true, that as we've gone over 1,000 times, if you say she's a communist and you say she's a Marxist, those are contradictions because Marx communism doesn't have a fucking government. It doesn't have class. It doesn't have states. It doesn't have any of this. It literally is a fucking anarchist place. Like, it is an anarchist society. So it does not make sense for anybody to call her a Marxist and a communist at the same time. But you guys know so little about the labels that you use that you don't actually care whether or not it fits or whether or not it's accurate. You just want to throw the labels at her because you know it just makes her sound dangerous. That's it. You just want to make her sound dangerous. And yes, if your labels actually fit, so like if while we're making comparisons to Donald Trump, and we're saying that there's like Nazi, there's things that are analogous to Nazis or Hitler or something like that. You know, when we have a campaign ad from the Trump team on his website that has like the new Reich in it, that they say it's the new fucking Reich. It's like, yeah, it makes sense that a lot of people are going to look at that and say, oh yeah, you know, this kind of harkens back to the fucking Nazis. Yeah, I think so. I think that's the first thing everybody's going to think of. I think when Donald Trump comes out and kind of points at some immigrants and says, yes, they're poisoning the blood of our nation. Yeah, I think everybody's going to look at that and say, oh, you know, that sounds like something fucking Hitler said. Yeah, it sounds a little something like that guy said. They're able to kind of make the connections themselves, regardless of whether or not the media says it. But it makes sense when they say it. At least it's a rational thought process when the media says, you know, hey, this is kind of analogous to something that the fucking Nazis did. But there's nothing that she's done that can be compared to Marx communism or Maoism.
Case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States?
This is as bad as saying they're not eating cats and dogs. Oh no, EOD, I thought you were better than this. Rob Noor doesn't believe in this. Like I know Rob's smarter than this. I know he wouldn't believe in that fucking shit. But yeah, I thought you were better than this, EOD. So yeah, if you're the first one to have the evidence, you can be the first one to send it to me. I've asked literally everybody who says they have proof, they have evidence that they can prove that this is real. I've asked for it 1,000 times. So if you're the first one, if you're the one who has it, hey, send it to me. I'm happy to go over it. This is really happening. Yeah, I wanna pull it up, but so far, I've been sent tons and tons of things where it's just random black people holding pets and they're like, look, it's a fucking Haitian getting ready to eat a cat. It's like, dude, it's a random woman. It's a black woman who posted a picture of her and her cat on Facebook. Chill, dude. Like, what is wrong with you?
States, why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
it's not supposed to be.
We're taking call-ins.
It is not supposed to be a cakewalk for anyone.
So are they misguided, the 50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today.
Yeah, we literally have Piers Morgan talking about how patronizing it is that Obama talked to a bunch of black men and said that he thinks black men aren't voting for Kamala at high rates because she's a woman. Now, black people are voting for Kamala at the same rates that they voted for all fucking Democrats, so there's no difference here. But Piers Morgan went off for hours about how patronizing that was. Meanwhile, we got Donald Trump saying that his voters will vote for him regardless of what he does. He can go out and shoot somebody in the middle of the streets and they will still vote for him. And you guys obviously, I would be offended by that. If I was one of his followers, I would be super offended and think that was insanely patronizing. But no, you guys cheer it on, and then he goes and commits a bunch of felonies, and you guys put his fucking mugshot on your shirts and make it your profile pictures and are proud of the fact that he's a convicted felon. And then he goes and says the election was stolen. And then his lawyers come out and admit in court under oath that they lied about this, and that they admit that, yes, we were lying about the election being stolen. Yes, we said we had evidence. We lied. We didn't really have evidence. They admit it over and over in case after case. They get sued. They get convicted. And you guys still sit there not feeling patronized somehow, not feeling patronized that they thought that you were dumb enough to just be lied to without any evidence and believe it. Yet you guys did believe it, and then they tell you they're lying, and then you still believe it. So there is no, I guess, being patronizing enough for you guys. But this, to just say oh, aren't you kind of being a little mean? Aren't you kind of talking down to them? It's like, give me a break, dude. You got a guy literally treating these kids like fucking kids. You got grown men all over the country treating Republicans like they are fucking 5-year-olds, and then she treats people like they're adults, and now this is patronizing. This is ridiculous.
Today, Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you...
I'm telling you, that was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in
yes, he has. There's so fucking much evidence of this guy trying to go after people because of personal beefs. While you guys were running around complaining about the fact that you thought the Biden administration wasn't sending help to North Carolina, which they were, and then Donald Trump saying that Biden's not even answering the phone, which Kemp in Virginia and Florida, everybody came out and said, no, we've already spoken to them. We got all the help we could possibly want. We're good. We don't need any more help. We've gotten everything we could ask for. That Donald Trump's running around saying this shit. It turns out that not only did he also say that Kamala and them are taking that have taken money from the emergency fund and sent it to the border and given it to illegal immigrants, which just isn't true. It turned out that Donald Trump did take money from the emergency funds, and he did give it to the border and give it to ICE agents. It turns out that Donald Trump did decline a bunch of states their emergency funds because they were fucking Democrats, because he had personal beefs with them, or because he was using it as some sort of political pawn. This is disgusting shit, and he turns around and blames Democrats for this and just blatantly lies about it, just makes it up. There's no evidence. There's nothing to back this up. He just makes the shit up, and then turns out not only do you guys run around saying how gross it is for no reason because it's not true, but it turns out Donald Trump actually did the stuff that he's accusing Democrats of over and over and over. He keeps saying, oh, this is all political persecution. Oh, they're trying to come after me. This is all just politics. And then it turns out, no, he went after dozens of people, or tried to go after dozens of people for political reasons. We literally went over a list of like 20 different people the other day during his administration that he tried to use the DOJ to go against his enemies, just like regular random people who said something mean about him. He tried getting them locked up because he didn't like what they were saying about him. This is insane. This is actually insane that the hypocrisies are so ridiculous to the point that I can't believe people would believe anything that this guy says ever again. It is wild.
In a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask.
Well, I mean, she didn't even mention the fact that he said that he was going to, what did he say, cancel the Constitution or whatever? Like, hey, Tom, did you hear about the Hamas guy dying? No, I didn't. No. We haven't really gotten into the news just yet. We're going over this first because Republicans have been coping in my chat for the past couple of days about this whole thing. So, yeah, now we're getting into it. But, yeah, so far, I mean, the last couple of answers she's given, these are direct answers, and she's giving pretty, not only very direct answers, but these are like fucking destroying answers that she's given them right here.
Ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump. You call Donald Trump. He's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden.
Like, yes, it is wild that that's the clip that they fucking showed when, yeah, we have clips of him like talking about the threat from within and shit like that. Like, where's the? I think I literally just had one of these up just a minute ago where where he was saying this sort of stuff.
The full hour this morning.
Fox News invited Donald Trump to a town hall with an audience of women. A friendly Q&A session where he laughed off his increasingly violent rhetoric.
Kamala Harris has said you sounded unhinged and unchecked power is in our future. What do you say about that?
I thought it was a nice presentation. I wasn't unhinged.
Trump is standing by his words, describing his perceived opponents as the enemy within, the same phrase he used Sunday when he also threatened force against them.
We have some sick people, radical left lunatics, and I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
By any
You guys do both of these things again, where it's like Donald Trump is against the establishment. He is against these fucking, these people who are all establishment shills all over the place. And then you turn around and call them radical at the same time. These are contradictions. Again, you guys can't keep doing all these fucking contradictory claims where you're calling them radical and then you're also calling them establishment. You're saying that Donald Trump isn't a real Republican, that he's really a Democrat. He voted Democrat his whole life, that he's really an independent. He doesn't even count as a Republican. He's anti-establishment across the board. But then also any Republican that disagrees with him at any point, they're a rhino. They're not Republicans anymore because they didn't agree with Donald Trump. So that means that Donald Trump is the establishment, that he decides what is and is not the establishment, that like anything that disagrees with him is no longer real Republicanism and is no longer Republican establishment. This is you guys like are always contradicting yourselves on every other claim that you make. I don't know how you do this. I don't know how the cognitive dissonance allows you guys to justify any of these things in your heads. It doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, so we'll take call-in soon. So I'm happy to find out.
any standard, this is a remarkable threat, but it's in line with Trump's embrace of authoritarian attitudes. This week alone, he tried to rewrite the history of January 6th, refusing to acknowledge violence nearly stopped the transfer of power.
You had a peaceful, very
Yeah, guys, they were all walking through the ropes. They were all walking through the ropes. They were just taking tours, dude. They were just walking around. They were let in. Guys, they were let in. The cops let them in. They just let them in and let them walk in. It was, I don't know what they're talking about. This looks super peaceful to me. This is just a peaceful protest. What are they talking about? All of the cops that they ran over and beat the shit out of and beat with their own fucking riot shields and shit? That was just peaceful protesting.
To acknowledge violence nearly stopped the transfer of power.
You had a peaceful, very peaceful. I left the morning that I was supposed to leave.
And his rallies continue to feature dehumanizing language.
When I win on November 5th, the migrant invasion ends and the restoration of our country begins.
While his running mate, J.D. Vance, is now embracing the lie the 2020 election was stolen from Trump.
I think there are serious problems in 2020. So did Donald Trump lose the election? Not by the words that I would use.
All of it so alarming to Trump's critics. More than 100 Republicans, including former elected officials and staffers, campaigned with Kamala Harris.
We are here today because we share a core belief that we must put country before party.
Harris trying to connect directly with Trump's base, painting him as dangerous during an interview with Fox News.
He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy...
Yeah, we know. Get over it.
Was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has...
Hold on, what did he quote there?
Staff. When did you first notice that
He's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable?
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Yeah, this is a question that they keep asking as though it has a presupposition that they have already said that his mental faculties have diminished. From every assessment that we've seen, it's that his mental faculties haven't diminished to any sort of like a degrading level to where we could actually account for it, but that he just is having more speech problems, which does come with age and is like a common part of aging. But that, yeah, I haven't seen any evidence of his mental faculties actually diminishing. Outside of the fact that, I don't want to say that because that's actually he does seem to have cloudy days. He does seem to have days where he's like kind of in a fog. So I do want to take that back. But it seems like the majority of the time, every time when I watch him on stage, the majority of the time he is speaking clearly. He is able to speak in full sentences. He's able to answer questions clearly. He's able to engage directly. But then there are times where he's definitely in a fog. Like there's definitely, yes, it's like a moment here, and then, the majority of things seem fine. But yeah, they're saying this as though this is like a thing that you should have noticed while he was in office. That I don't think it changed dramatically from the point that he ran for president in 2020 till now. Yeah, I don't think there's a big difference.
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is.
Yeah, I think like she is. This is a good retort. This is a good idea for her to push this and say like, he's not on the ballot, dude. I'm not here to talk about Joe Biden. Like, Joe Biden's done. He's already retired. He hasn't already retired. Sorry, he's already dropped out the race. He said that he's not a part of this election, but I could totally see the interviewer coming back and saying, well, no, wait, we want to know, like, if he was actually incapable of running the country, which is presupposed within his question, that, like, if he was incapable of running the country, we would kind of hold you accountable for not blowing the whistle on this earlier and not saying something and getting him out of the way. But Biden isn't on the ballot because he's mentally degrading. Well, that's what I think that's just untrue. Again, you can't just look at somebody's speech and the way that they talk and say that they are now mentally degrading. But this is like a failure on her part to kind of push back against that, because that should be what it is that she's answering to. That is kind of the implied problem here, but he's not saying it directly. And so when she kind of answers, and says like, well, this isn't about Joe Biden. Like, this has nothing to do with Joe Biden. So you can ask somebody else. Like, this isn't I'm on a campaign right now, so I'm not here to talk about Joe Biden. Unless he answers and says, well, no, this has to do with you. This has to do with the fact that why is he off the ballot? It doesn't fucking matter, Jake. That has nothing to do with her fucking campaign. I don't know why. What do you mean, why is he off the ballot? It doesn't matter. It's not part of her fucking campaign either way. Whatever the reason, has nothing to do with her campaign. That's what she said. What do you mean? What are you talking about? That's the same answer I gave before. Why do I have to repeat the fucking answer? He's not part of the campaign. It doesn't matter why he's not part of the campaign. He's still not part of the campaign. But if the actual interviewer wants to respond and say why he's asking the question, that would make sense. But I don't like the fact that she's not actually pushing back against that she's not actually giving a retort to it, and she's not actually saying, well, hold on. Yeah, Biden is more than capable of running the country, and he's more than capable of doing the job even today. So I don't know what you're talking about, where I noticed that he couldn't do these things. Like, that never happened. Like, that's what she should say. She should say, this never happened. I don't know what you're talking about. You say I noticed this thing. I didn't say I noticed this. Where did you get that from? Like, that's what I would say. But yeah, I think that this is like a failure on her part to actually answer the question. Question is, when did she notice his mental decline? And she said, he's not on the ballot. He's not on the ballot because he's mentally declining. That's the point. Jake, I'm going to repeat the same fucking thing I just said the last 3 times. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening, dude. What is happening? Am I losing my mind here? Did I not say over and over that if she's there to answer questions about the fucking campaign, then this isn't relevant? You repeating over and over that it's not about the campaign because he's not in the race. only continues to help my argument that she is right, that this just isn't relevant, and that she doesn't need to answer the question. You are just reinforcing my point over and over, but you're saying it as though I'm crazy and I'm wrong while you're agreeing with me. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's fucking happening right now.
Why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out, even people.
Tom, what meds you on? I don't take prescription meds. I don't trust doctors, so I just smoke crack. That's the only thing I trust. My homie Big Joe on the corner is the only one I trust. I'm pointing out why it's a bad answer. She can still admit he's mentally declining while saying it doesn't matter for her campaign. Okay, never mind. I'm not.
People who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Madam Vice President, two more things. You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat that the world faces, that the U.S. faces. This is what you said.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? This attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the #1 threat?
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, and then several hours on each occasion that Iran posed a threat to Israel, I was there. Most recently in the Situation Room, in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military and doing what America must always do to defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself, and to give American support to be able to allow Israel to have the resources to defend itself against attack.
Wasn't this far left propaganda, dude? Oh my goodness, I can't believe she's pushing this far left propaganda that Israel has the right to defend itself and that she wants to make sure that they have what they need to defend themselves. This is, oh my goodness, she's a Maoist, bro. She's a communist.
Including from Iran and Iran's terrorist proxies in the region.
Right.
And that
but those proxies were getting funded by
my commitment
Iran.
To that is unyielding and unwavering.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's
that
administration
go towards
that
the Iran regime.
That we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention how Donald Trump has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers,
Hamas,
has diminished the significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
Well, I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what?
Shut him down like a strong black mama bear. Oh my goodness. And y'all doubt that she's black? He's sitting there with his yes ma'am, with his head down. He's embarrassed. You don't mess with a black mom, dude. Everybody knows.
Should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision
and there are critics
that they feel.
who look at what the administration did and say and think differently. Madam Vice President, they're wrapping me very hard here. I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things
There's more to say. I have
there,
much more
there
to
are
say,
a lot of
actually.
things that people want to learn about you and your policies, and that's why we
I
invited
invite
you
everyone
here.
to go to kamalaharris.com, and you will see that I have 80 pages of policies that are quite comprehensive.
Yeah, for those of you who are coping, saying that she just didn't, she wasn't even on the fucking topic the entire time, and that she was just rambling on off-topic shit the whole time like Trump did, there's just no shot, dude. No shot you think that's what happened here. The earlier parts, it was annoying how she wasn't answering any of the questions, but the later parts, no. I think in the later parts, she was definitely doing much better. And this is like what I've been asking her to do this entire time. Every single, if you guys go back to like all of my reviews of her interviews, I am hating on every single interview that she does. Every single interview that she does, I am pissed off at the end on how horribly she does throughout the entire thing, because she can answer the questions while also dunking on Donald Trump and the stupid stuff that he says about it and the stupid lies that he tells about her. And she did that here. She finally did that here. She was finally like actually giving attacks on Donald Trump over and over and over, because it's like, this is something that Trump excels at. This is something that Trump is really good at, is like they ask him a question. Hey, what is your policy on this? Well, it's definitely not that comrade Kamala's policy. She's gonna ruin the country. And it's like, he just goes off on something totally unrelated and just like keeps talking shit about her and Joe Biden and how they ruin the country. Like, yes, she's finally doing the thing that I have been begging her to fucking do in all of these interviews, is like, start with some fucking dunks on Trump. Start with the shit that he's not doing. Start with the dumb shit that he said about this before you answer the question. And yes, she's finally doing it. And I am finally fairly happy with an interview. This is definitely the best one that she's had so far. By far, this is the best one.
And should be accessible to anyone who would like to read them. And it includes what I intend to do about affordable housing, what I intend to do about small businesses, what I do
And that's why we invited you here, to see where you were in 2019 and where you are now.
America's military and ensure we have the most lethal and best fighting force in the world.
Madam Vice President,
and
they're giving me a hard rap
Well,
here.
I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the...
Yes, EOD, that's what I'm saying. Yes, do what Trump has been doing. Yes, I've been begging her to do what fucking Trump has been doing. Like, she's always giving these very like general answers that don't really get to like the core of the answer and don't give you information, but also don't get you any sort of like political advancement. They're not advancing your politics. They're not advancing what it is that you want to do in any way. They're not making you look better. They're not making Trump look worse. They're not doing anything in your answers. Whereas Trump, he will answer, but all he's doing is dunking on the other person. That's all he does, is just dunk on the other person and then like spit out some talking point of like, I love tariffs. It's my favorite word in the book. I'm pretty sure it was written in the Bible. Jesus said tariffs are the best thing. Everybody knows that. Like, and he just like he'll throw some bullshit like that in there in the middle of, yes, calling her an enemy of the state and a Maoist and all of this other shit. So yes, it's good that she finally gets these dunks in on Trump while answering the questions. This is what I've been asking her to do for a while now, and I'm glad that she got the memo. Somebody from her campaign is finally watching the Tomfoolery show, and they got a W here. So well done. Keep watching the Tomfoolery show if you want to know what's going on here. If you want the best advice.